This is Outnumbered. I'm Sandra Smith. Here today, Harris Faulkner, Jedediah Bila, Kirsten Powers, today's hashtag one lucky guy, Fox Business Network's Charles Payne, and he is outnumbered. Charles, it's awesome to have you.
How's it going, guys?
Good to see you.
You too, you too.
We're so excited to have you.
So am I.
Are you geared up for this or what?
I think so. You know, I was trying to put knee pads on underneath this, and I was wondering if I could wear a football helmet, but they said I couldn't get away with it.
I saw your Twitter feed.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
Well, you know, I've worked with Charles for a few years now, and I know how to get him going, so we're going to have a good
she knows
show.
all my hot buttons. All of them, yeah.
Can't wait.
All right, well, see you in court. House Speaker John Boehner outlining his legal strategy in his lawsuit against President Obama, saying it will focus on the president's picking and choosing when he enforces parts of Obamacare. Speaker Boehner in a statement saying, quote, in 2013, the president changed the health care law without a vote of Congress, effectively creating his own law by literally waiving the employer mandate and the penalties for failing to comply with it. That's not the way our system of government was designed to work. No president should have the power to make laws on his or her own. In response, the White House saying, quote, it is disappointing that Speaker Boehner and congressional Republicans have decided to waste time and taxpayer dollars on a political stunt. Republican leaders in Congress are playing Washington politics rather than working with the president on behalf of hardworking Americans. As the president said today, he is doing his job, lawsuit or not, and it's time Republicans in Congress did theirs. And the response from the president himself, Mr. Obama, capping off his trip to Texas by ripping into Republicans, mocking them for the lawsuit, and for calls from some in the GOP for his impeachment.
You hear some of them. All right. Sue him. Impeach him. Really? Really? For what? You're going to sue me for doing my job? Okay. I mean, think about that. You're going to use taxpayer money to sue me for doing my job while you don't do your job. Sometimes I feel like saying to these guys, I'm the guy doing my job. You must be the other guy.
And as if to add an exclamation point to what has been a difficult week for the president, amid the beating he's been getting for his handling of the immigration crisis and his refusal to go down to the border during his time in Texas, Hecklers interrupting his speech in Texas.
I'm sorry, what are you yelling about now? Sit down, guys. I'm almost done. Come on. Sit down. I'll talk to you afterwards. I promise. All right? I'll bring you back. I'm wrapping things up here. I understand. So, see, everybody's going to start. I'm on your side, man. Sit down, guys. We'll talk about it later. I promise. All right?
The Secret Service stood down, letting the hecklers stay, and we're told whisking these guys backstage to meet with the president after the speech. You know, Charles, you and I were talking in the green room. He's taking all of this very personally and turning it into a bit of a laughing matter in this speech here.
Yeah, well, he's always taken everything very personally, and I think that's been one of the, you know, if you talk about the crux of the issue, why does Boehner have to sue the president? Because he's always taken things personally, because his idea of compromise isn't meeting in the middle. It's you come to me, or in this case, I will do it myself. But you mentioned he's had a bad week. He's had a bad 2 weeks. The Supreme Court has said we don't have room for an imperialistic president. The decisions that he's lost, and you consider he's had a couple of appointments to the Supreme Court, a couple of 9-0 decisions. He's lost them. A serious legal rebuke of his overreach, and now you have Congress doing what they probably should have done a long time ago, challenge him at least legally.
Do you think that we would see the same anger from the Republican Party over the number of executive actions that this president has taken, Kirsten, had we had a better economic situation, had unemployment been below 4% right now, and the housing market was shining and things were booming? Do you think that we'd be having the same conversation about these executive actions?
Well, I mean, I think that there would be a political calculation that would have to be made. And so right now they have made a political calculation that the president's not very popular. And so they actually can do things like this. If we lived in the world you just described, they probably would be a little more unsure about taking the president on. I think this is a political stunt, but it happens to be a political stunt that has some merit. You know, so as you said, the president has been sort of taken to task by the Supreme Court already multiple times for some of his unconstitutional decisions. And so I think that for him to mock it is a little unseemly. I think he is behaving in an extremely unpresidential way.
Oh,
by
my
the way.
God, he's looking desperate.
Really
he's looking nuts. He's looking nuts.
Anderson and I were making eye contact through that, and it's not funny.
Yeah, no,
he thinks he's funny.
Yeah.
But it's not funny. It's not just a mockery of the process that he's going through. It's a mockery of what we have as a democracy, of the man at the top, you know?
I don't think he thinks he's funny, Harris. I think the president...
Because he was laughing at himself.
I know, well, you know what? People tend to do that. When you embarrass yourself, if you trip down these steps, you might kind of chuckle, laugh it off. I think we're looking at a desperate man who became a lame duck over the last couple of months, and that's what lame ducks do as president. They use executive orders, and they go crazy with the public. I think the president is really losing it completely.
It's not just about executive orders, though. I mean, many presidents put forth executive orders. This is a president who changes laws on a whim. He just gets up one day and says, I'm going to be the legislative branch today. I'm going to decide that I can change this law and I can do it X amount of times. I mean, Obamacare was changed how many times now without congressional approval? So I think that, and what does he think? Does he think, he says, well, they're suing me for doing my job. What exactly does he think his job is? Does he think his job is to just get up every day as president and amend laws just based on what he feels that day? That's not your job. Your job is to obey the Constitution, to seek consent of Congress. You are the executive branch, but you are not the legislative branch. Earth to President Obama.
Well, and also I think that, you know, it's a good point because he's saying I'm doing this because you're not doing your job, but that's not the Obamacare changes. The Obamacare changes have nothing to do with the Republicans.
And Republicans...
I mean, it's not, and this has been criticized by Jonathan Turley, who, you know, is a liberal law professor. This is not, you know, so he can't just say I'm doing my job. It's like, well, it has to be constitutional. Yeah,
well,
you just can't do whatever you want.
Though, it does. The changes and delays, as I pointed out, 40 as of 2 days ago, that does change too. We have to update that number. But they do point to one thing, and that is this president's either an inability or refusal to work across the aisle. Because remember, Republicans were calling for, if we're not going to repeal it, let's revise it. Let's get Obamacare in a position where people can live with it. He missed opportunities.
Yeah, but Harris, you know they wanted to destroy Obamacare.
But this points to missed opportunities for this president. So maybe he couldn't get it on all 40 of the moves that he's
Another
made.
thing it points to, though,
but maybe one or two.
Is the inability to say, I messed up. It just, you know what, I would have appreciated over the last 5 years 4 or 5 honest mea culpas. I messed up. I miscalculated. I read a book in college, and I believe that this kind of stuff would work.
Presidents don't ever do that.
Well,
I mean, we've talked about this before here.
Top executives do that to get people
when did George
to
Bush
believe
do
them.
that?
Listen, I don't have them all over George Bush did, but I'm talking about George. I'm talking about presidents. Well, they don't. They should, because as a person, I know this is complicated. I know that the average person watching this from the outside, every time there is something that is wrong, that you have to mend it 40 times to just say, okay, I was wrong. I was wrong about a lot of things, and I think that hurts. I think that makes people just distance themselves from politics in general, and I think it's going to hurt the president's legacy.
It kind of reminds me, actually, Harris, of the president saying, I'm just telling the truth now. I don't have to run for office again, so I can just let her rip. Isn't that what
That's interesting? But wait a minute.
Wow.
So I can tell the truth now because I'm not running for office again. What the heck was he doing for the last 6 years? What version of the truth were we hearing? Now, we're only taking him based on what he's saying. So now my question would be, what were you saying for the last 6 years when you knew that you were seeking either re-election or a non-lame duckness? Not only is he not up for re-election and can't be, he's entering the lame duck stages of his presidency now, too. Right? I mean, so what would compel him to tell the truth? Nothing to lose? That's kind of frightening.
And it was the transparency that was promised in his campaigning that we have yet to see.
Well, I mean, we're seeing it now. And the one thing we have, though, that's been pretty transparent in my mind from the administration is their contempt for the other 2 branches of government that you mentioned earlier. That has been transparent from day one.
Hey, by the way, Charles, we forgot to point out something. I just caught the bling on your cufflinks.
Yeah, that's some impressive stuff going on.
And you guys know, Charles always got the flashy watch on. The
tweet?
Unbelievable. What are the cufflinks, by the way?
Tweeted about this.
This is
bragging about it.
This is a caveman dragging a woman by the hair with one club in one hand and the woman in the other hand.
What are you trying to say, Charles? On anybody's head.
All I'm trying to say is that I am intimidated by you guys, and I had to overcompensate.
All right.
And I snuck the cufflinks out the house without my wife.
I like it when a guy overcompensates with a red Corvette. Can we do that next time?
There they are. Oh my gosh, he wasn't kidding.
Yeah, that's some serious stuff, Charles.
Is that a drumstick or a club?
A club.
Well, maybe your wife actually did know you walked out of the house wearing those. Have you heard about this? Suspicious of your significant other? Think they may be cheating? Well, no, I wasn't insinuating that, but they might be keeping a watch on you. Well, there's a new app that lets you track their every text, call, and move, which was what I was referencing, without them even knowing. And Americans are stressed, but what bothers us the most? We'll reveal those daily annoyances that really get to us. Hint, there's a lot of them coming from Washington.